Hi chickens. One thing that I get asked about quite regularly these days is business advice for people who would like to start a heart-centered business, a business which really speaks to their passions, a kind of solopreneurial kind of business which really speaks to what they're great at and which kind of speaks to their unique ability and is often about being of service and about making great connections with your clientele and kind of developing a tribe. And I also hear from people who are already on their way towards kind of running their spirit-centered business. They've opened up and so on, but they're struggling to maybe attract more clients or to understand where they fit into the marketplace, particularly online, because it is kind of quite a unique and varied and complex terrain. And I would like to just give you a few bits of advice from my heart to yours if you are thinking about starting a business of the kind of nature, say of my business, if you're into distance Reiki, if you make spiritual craft items of any kind, tarot readings, rune readings, any kind of life advice counselling. What else can I think of that this would involve? I think you kind of get the kind of thing I mean. Maybe selling your crystals, selling esoteric or occult books, that kind of stuff. Something that really speaks to your heart and is really about your passion and about you wanting to communicate your passion to the world and connect with your tribe, the other people who are really mad about exactly what you're mad about. I wanted to give some advice to you. The first thing I wanted to say, there's a hell of a lot of things that I could say, but I'm going to try and keep this video quite succinct and just give you a few key pieces of advice that I think would be helpful. So the first thing I wanted to mention was that it's really important to troubleshoot your limiting beliefs surrounding your own abilities. If you are struggling to actually begin your business, if you kind of think about the business model or you envision what the perfect business would look like for you, or you kind of go through the motions of daydreaming about it a lot, but you're not yet at that point where you feel you can really make a start on it, then it might be quite wise to do some shadow work and do some release work surrounding your beliefs and your limiting thought patterns with regard to your own abilities, with regard to your own right to succeed and your own potential to succeed, because quite a lot of the time we're bogged down with this conditioning which kind of convinces us beyond all reasonable doubt that if we start a business it will go nowhere, or we struggle with comparison, we take a look at other businesses, and instead of being spurred to action by the success that other people have experienced, we are instead kind of prone to being intimidated or prone to being disheartened because somebody else has already done what we want to do. That kind of paradigm where it becomes very toxic and damaging, and it isn't really about you celebrating your authenticity anymore, it's more about you kind of wanting to be somebody else. That's kind of the reality, because nobody else has done what you set out to do. What you set out to do is the vision that you have in your head. So rather than comparing and rather than seeing somebody else's realised vision and thinking, oh, that could have been mine, but now that vision is taken, it can't be mine anymore, you really need to go into your core and you really need to be authentic about what it is that you want to give to the world and what it is that you wish to express. And sometimes it just takes to clear that debris that's in the way, essentially, those negative thought patterns that keep coming up over and over again, those limiting beliefs that keep you where you are. And sometimes we just have a very skewed perception of our own ability, and sometimes there's just that little fear barrier that we really need to hop over in order to make sure that we are in the co-creating driving seat of our own lives. And this is very true when it comes to heart-centered businesses and businesses that really are about our passions and really are about communicating and connecting with our tribe. So I think that's really important. And it's also important to troubleshoot any limiting beliefs surrounding the notion of spirituality and money and how those two things kind of combine together, because I think that is a big stumbling ground for a lot of people. That's where things start to fall flat, when people convince themselves that earning money and anything which is spiritually fulfilling or speaks to the heart or is a passion, those two things can't go together. There's almost this kind of shame surrounding money, this ugly paradigm which has got to do with how everything that you do to make a living should make you miserable and should not speak to your highest good and should not be something that involves your passion. And in fact, when you go off and you try and do that and you try and kind of create a job for yourself where there wasn't one before, a job which speaks to you, a job which is both lucrative and emotionally fulfilling, you're almost made to feel guilty about that, and you're made to feel like that's unrealistic, and you're made to feel like that's selfish, and you're made to feel like that's a whole bunch of stuff that you would never consider yourself to be and which doesn't align itself with your core principles. But you really need to break down those messages, and you really need to ask yourself, Are those messages valid? Are those messages really legitimate? Or am I being fed a whole bunch of BS which has really got nothing to do with what I feel and what I believe inside? So I think it's important sometimes, before we can actually hone in on the project that we want to bring into being, to actually look at the entire terrain of our emotional response to that project and everything that's behind it and everything that surrounds it, and really ask ourselves to get clear about what the stumbling blocks are, what the limiting beliefs are, what kind of conditioning we've picked up over the years, which has convinced us that we can't do what we truly want to do, even though it feels pure and even though it feels right and even though it feels like it's in our highest good. So these are questions that you need to ask yourself if you are struggling with that kind of connection between your spiritual self and your desire to make money and support yourself and be abundant, etc. And everybody will draw their own conclusions, and I'm not saying that there's one right way or wrong way, but I do know that a lot of people are holding themselves back through being unable to kind of wade through the treacle of that dodgy paradigm where those two things are supposed to not sit together quite right. Because I can tell you they do sit together quite right, and there is nothing actually more beautiful than enjoying an energy exchange, which is to do with you giving and being in service and being able to use a modality or provide a product that is really, really important to you and really speaks to your passion. There is nothing more beautiful and nothing more spiritually sound than that. And so I think that's something that you guys maybe need to think about if you're watching this and thinking, oh God, I want to start a business, or I want to succeed with my business, and maybe it's that kind of limiting stuff that's holding me back. You know, sometimes we need to go back to the drawing board and actually think about what it is that's going on internally that's affecting the external situation and affecting our pathway towards success. If you feel a little bit intimidated by starting a business, if you feel like it's not quite the right time, if you feel like there's something holding you back, you feel like there's that glass partition that you can't get through, one thing that I would suggest is don't be afraid to start developing content and honing a presence with your tribe right away. You don't need to be offering a product or a service for for you to be able to produce great content or show people what you know or show people what your area of expertise is, or otherwise get yourself out there. You know, the products and the services and the business model and all that kind of thing, that can come later. If you're not completely comfortable with that right now, but you feel like in the future it might be something that you want to go for, that's absolutely fine. What I would suggest is that you start by creating some kind of content, get yourself a blog, develop some podcasts, anything that you can do in your free time which speaks to your passion and which kind of connects your name with this thing that you're passionate about. For example, if you feel that in the future you want to start an astrology business and you want to be this kick-ass astrologer and you really want to do, you know, beautiful birth charts or whatever it is, start with a blog. Start with blogging about what you know about astrology. Maybe use some social media platforms to connect with your tribe, connect with other people who are interested in astrology, and really research, you know, which parts of the overall online terrain of astrology really speak to you. You know, where's your tribe? Who's speaking to what you're doing and who's really inspiring you? The same if you want to start a crystal business but you feel like it's not really time, or you feel like you don't really have the amount of product that you need in stock to be able to start. Anything like that, you've still got hang-ups, whatever it is, that's fine, but start writing about crystals, start showing people what you know about crystals. You know, allow your enthusiasm to come out. And there are a few good reasons for doing this. I guess I'll just explain two of them briefly here. The first one is that obviously the more you get your name out there and the more you associate your name with your passion, the more easily recognisable you are going to be when you do start a business, and the more trusted you're going to be, and the more you're already going to have some kind of fan base or audience in place. And the second reason I would say it's important to do is because once you start a business and you learn how to use social media, you'll quickly realise that a very big back catalogue of quality content about the subjects that you are interested in with your business can be very useful. It can draw new people into your tribe. It can get new people interested in what you're doing. You can kind of collect new audience members and then you can converse with them. And so these exchanges begin and you start really great relationships. So for me, I've been blogging since 2011. I was blogging quite a while before I started doing paid readings, and a good 6 months before I started offering free readings for testimonials. And now in the middle of 2014, what I've realised is that that was a huge blessing for me. The fact that everything started off with a blog in 2011 long before I decided to make the Four Queens into a business, is fantastic for me now because I have a massive back catalogue of passionate content about tarot, and I can go back through my archives and I can select articles for people that need an answer on a specific question. Or when I go onto Twitter, I can choose something from my back catalogue and I can really just make it fresh again. I can make it new again. I can say, hey, these are some thoughts from the archives of the strength card that I wrote in 2012. And all of these new people who probably weren't even reading the blog before and have no idea who I was before, they will pick up on that content. But actually for me, it's been a completely effortless process, right? All I've done is go back through the archive, select something that I would quite like people to see that I wrote a long time ago, and I'm essentially introducing it to a completely fresh audience, and it gets that conversation started again. So it's really useful for you to have that back catalogue, and it does really help in business. Sorry if I'm really peppy in this video. I've just been doing loads of work and making loads of calls to people, and after I've done this I need to tidy my room and I need to make dinner, so I'm really on a hype at the moment, so sorry if I appear a little bit peppy. So yeah, start developing content and honing your presence today. Don't worry about when the business is ultimately going to start, when you're going to have enough product, when you feel you're going to have enough knowledge. Forget that stuff. If you really feel like at some point in the future there is going to be a business and it is going to be yours, then, you know, start with content and start today. Don't hover over that publish button. Really click that publish button and get very clear on the fact that you are developing your presence and you are showing people what you can do and what your passion really is, and you're never going to regret doing that if it doesn't eventually turn into a business. It's always going to be something that was worthwhile for you to do, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is that there's no regret attached to that. You're still going to have a lovely body of work which is going to show people what you're passionate about and how your learning has developed and how your skills have developed and been maintained over time. So it's still a really good idea whether or not you ultimately decide that a business is for you. Talk directly to your tribe. I know this is probably something you hear a great deal, but it is something I wanted to put out there because I so believe that this is the truth, and it's something that I've really learned in my own journey with the Four Queens. A lot of people, when they come into business, or when they're thinking about starting a business, or when they're thinking about developing their business and kind of expanding and inviting more abundance into the equation, they often mistakenly believe that what they need to do is they need to branch out and they need to make their services or products appealing to everyone. And actually what this does is it makes your website and your marketing materials and your copy and your branding and all of that kind of thing quite bland in a way and quite nondescript, because you're actually trying to attract everybody. You're trying not to be too specific. You're trying not to pin yourself down. You actually want to be appealing to as many different people and the biggest cross-section of the community as possible. And what this does is it kind of saturates you, it absorbs you into a saturated market, and it stops you from being authentic and from using your true voice and from branding according to your true desired aesthetic and so on and so forth. So what I would say is it's really important to get clear on your ideal client. What is your demographic? What kind of client are you really wanting to attract? What kind of clients do you want to work with? I know it might seem counterintuitive to do this, because it kind of feels like you're excluding a bunch of people that, you know, could actually feed into your business and could have a relationship with you as a business person. But believe me, what you're really doing is you are clicking on that green light for your tribe to come and find you in the darkness, okay? The more you are authentic, and the more you use your authentic voice, and the more you think about who you're trying to resonate with, who would align with you, what kind of vibration you want to send out so that you'll get that vibration in return, the more your business will grow. The more nondescript you're trying to be and the more general you're trying to be and the more people that you're trying to attract, the less it's going to come out as something that is you. You know, you are your brand in solopreneur enterprises. You are a big part of what you do. Your passion, your voice, your true desire that you're bringing to the table, your perspectives. People want that, and it's true, not everybody will resonate with it, but that's absolutely fine. Not everybody resonates with the kind of tarot readings that I do. I work in a very specific kind of paradigm, and that's the paradigm that's suited to me, and not everybody is going to want that kind of reading. But what I learned is that the more specific I was with people, with my audience, about the kind of readings that I give, and the more willing I was to be completely honest about my own approach with tarot and what I was and was not willing to do, and how I felt that tarot could be useful, the more I gathered my tribe and the more I had these interesting conversations, and the more it became obvious that the Four Queens was really a part of me, and that what I was projecting with the Four Queens all the time was me and was authentic. It wasn't a lie, it was what I really wanted to portray, and as a result the people that resonated with me came forward. And I think that's really important. I'm not sure that I need to say too much else on that, but I just really think it's important to decide who you're talking to and talk to those people directly. If you are not on my Four Queens Facebook page, I would suggest maybe you go over there and take a look at the kind of posts that I write, particularly not so much the images, although that is part of it too, but take a look at the advice posts that I write and the little kind of discourses and sermons that I give totally from heart level when I think about something that's really plugged me in or switched me on, and I want to share that and communicate that with my tribe. When you look at what I write, I'm speaking to a really specific kind of person. I'm speaking to that person who I know is a member of my tribe, somebody who gets me, somebody who's on that same level, somebody who's looking for the same things ultimately and is on a spiritual and profoundly emotionally expansive journey. I'm speaking to those people, and those are the people that will get the most benefit out of my readings. So it all makes sense, it all matches up. If you're hanging out with your tribe, you're getting something from your tribe, you're growing as a result of being with your tribe, but you're also making sure that the right people click add to cart, and they are the people that can really get something from whatever it is that you provide. So it really is all interconnected. It's an interwoven, all-encompassing thing that really needs to be thought about in great depth. Connect with other business owners in your sector. This is so important. I really feel like what I was saying before about the current paradigm that is kind of quite toxic and quite damaging, which exists, where we convince ourselves that money and anything spiritually centered or heart centered just shouldn't go together, should always be given free from your heart, or shouldn't be something that you can actually make into a viable career. I think that that kind of paradigm links hand in hand with this whole idea of business being about competition and sales being about the hard sell, and everything being about trying to rip something off of somebody else, or trying to be very concerned with being top dog and making sure that everybody else is below you. And actually, especially in solopreneur enterprises now, we are moving into this very divine feminine centered new business paradigm where it's not really about competition anymore. It's about collaboration, it's about friendship, it's about building each other up rather than ripping each other down. And the more that I've found that I've connected with my fellow business owners, particularly people that are interested in tarot and that kind of thing, and the more that I have interviewed them and spent time with them and helped them with their issues and encouraged them and supported and celebrated their work and advertised their work to my tribe, the more I feel like my business is more heart-centered than it ever could be, the more I connect with my core. And it's so important to do that. So if you feel intimidated by other business owners, if you feel like everything needs to be very separate and you need to be your entity and they need to be theirs, and you can't connect with each other because you're all essentially competing with each other, then you are working in some kind of old paradigm. It's gone out of vogue now, it's out of date, it's out of fashion, believe me. And I can say that with great sincerity in the tarot world particularly. We are about having each other's backs, and we are about celebrating each other's work. And largely, that is what's going on in the tarot community. And I like to think that I have been part of that, particularly with things like my Tarot Spotlight blog feature. I've done 2 of those interviews now, and I will continue to do them once a month. And it's basically where I showcase somebody else's tarot work, someone else in the business tarot field, and I interview them about their journey with tarot and about what they offer. I run a Facebook group called Heart Centered Small Business Owners. I'll also link that below, where a bunch of us get together and we discuss different business issues and how to approach them in a spirit-centered way, and we post useful articles, and we're basically there for each other. We connect with each other, and that's how it should really be. That's where it's all going. That's the future of entrepreneurial enterprise. That's the future of heart-centered business. That is the future of being your brand and of being at the heart of your business. That's really what it's all about. It's about connecting with other people who feel the same way, because otherwise the road is very lonely, and a lot of ideas can kind of go to waste and get all kind of rotten and dull, and you don't really feel that sense of being pushed and being challenged and being celebrated. And you deserve for your business to be celebrated, and other people deserve for theirs to be celebrated too. So I think that's just something vital to say. And finally, I wanted to say that aside from the Facebook group, which I hope you will join if you have a heart-centered business and you're not already a member, if you're thinking about starting a business and you have some concerns, you have some things that you would like to talk through with other people who may be further down the road than you, please come and join. I'm also working on an ebook which will be available at the end of the summer, and it is called Hustling from Heart Level, Inspiring and Compassionate Advice for Business Tarot Readers. And I am going to be offering that on my Etsy shop, and it's just going to be lots and lots and lots of my thoughts, my ideas, my tips, my advice, focus areas, challenges, things that you can do to really get yourself thinking outside the box and think about your attitude towards abundance and really get into that divine feminine business paradigm that I've talked about in this video, really help you shape it, hone it, make it your own. And so look out for that, and I very much am enjoying writing it and I can't wait to finish it. I also have a reading on my Etsy shop called the Business Kickstart Tarot Reading. That's been quite popular lately, and the way that I designed the spread is basically based around a customization according to your key focus areas on your business or on the business that is still up here and which you would like to bring into the tangible realm. And quite often tarot can have some incredibly poignant messages for you which can really help to move you on, so I'll link that below too. And until next time, much love guys, blessed be.